Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sharifa, Carlo, and Andalusia. Welcome to our interview. Thanks for accepting our invitation. I want to start with, who is Sharifa, Carlo, and Andalusia? Can you tell us briefly about your life?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I started out, my father was American military, so I was born in Germany. And from Germany, I traveled around the world with my father. Essentially, I went to 13 schools in 12 years. I think that my growing up the way that I did left me open to new ideas, left me open to new cultures. After that, I went to the university, and it was before I went to the university that the path to Islam began. I started international relations. Then I quit that because I became a Muslim. I became Muslim at the age of 21. Then I did a degree in English. I did another bachelor's in science. I did a master's in composition and rhetoric. And my PhD is artificial intelligence, linguistic aspects. Also, I did an ijaza in Islamic studies so that I could teach Islam. And that's basically, between working at the university, doing dawah, that's pretty much my life.
How was your life in regards to faith? What were you believing in?
I was raised as a Catholic. My father is a Southern Baptist, my mother was a Catholic, so in order for them to get married, he had to agree to raise us as Catholics. So that's what I grew up as. During the years, I looked at other different types of Christianity, but for the most part, I was a Christian. I believed that Jesus was God and the Son of God, and that if we didn't accept him and we didn't worship him, then we would go to hell. So that was my basic belief. We were quite religious, and my family was very conservative. The idea of God always resonated with me. At some point, I started to ask myself questions, and I even went to a Christian priest, a Catholic priest, and I asked him about the concept of the Trinity because it was very strange and it was hard to intellectualize. I'm a very logical, intellectual type person. So the way that he explained it was like nonsense to me. I had a hard time understanding it and accepting it, but I really believed in God, and everything around me, everybody around me was saying Jesus is God, the Son of God. Who was I to be questioning it?
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We saw that 80% of our audience, including this video, are not subscribed to our channel. As you know, we are a non-profit organization and advertisements are disabled on our videos. So the only reason we are asking for this is to spread the truth. It may seem like a small act, but inshallah, it may be a means of guidance for many people. Now let's click the subscribe button and let's walk as an eternal passenger.
How did you decide to take a dangerous path of studying religious sciences in order to denigrate Islam?
Okay, well, I didn't think of it as dangerous when I was doing it. And in high school, my dad's commander came to me and he said, look, we know your family, we know your position, we know that you are really good at debating and talking to people and convincing people, and your grades are good and you're a good Christian. So we want you to be part of this group, and you are going to take women away from practicing Islam to basically being free and feminist and living their lives. So my mentality was these poor women. I really had no clue what Islam was. I'd never really studied it or learned about it. In school we have the classes. In our book in high school it said that Muhammad was an epileptic and he would have epileptic fits. He would get drunk, and it was just horrible stories that were not true. So I really didn't know anything about Islam. So I thought Muslim women are backwards, they don't know the real life, and that's what motivated me. I wanted to fix them, I wanted to save them. They knew that taking people away from Islam is very difficult, but to make them weak Muslims was easy. I remember once I was having a conversation with the daughter of a general, and it was in the 1970s when the Iranians took over the American embassy and they were holding them captive. And I was like, why don't our fathers just go over there and destroy all of them? And she said, I was just asking my father that last night. And what he said was that with most people, it is the fear of death, the fear of annihilation that keeps them in control, and America's able to control them that way. But when people practice Islam, they don't fear death, so you can't control them. I remembered that later when I became a Muslim. I was like, oh, now I get it.
What types of dangerous situations did you encounter during your participation in this organization, and how did you deal with them?
As I said, I never dealt with any danger. I never even finished with them. I was in my third year of the university, and while I was in the university, I was learning about Islam in the evenings During the day, I had my normal classes in international relations. In the evenings, I was sitting with a group of Christians and, well, actually it was mostly Jews, that would teach me Quran and Hadith and how to play with it. You know, in the Quran, it says to take your veil and to put it over your bosom. Well, it doesn't say over your head. It says over your bosom. So if you wear a shawl, you're doing what the Quran says. So somebody who doesn't have a lot of knowledge of Islam and doesn't know that the women were already covering their head and it was just fixing the hijab, not that they didn't have to cover their head, it'd be easy to misguide them. So they were teaching me to do these types of things. But in order to do that, I had to read Quran. I had to read Hadith. And I fell in love with the Quran. I never made it out of the university even, because in my third year, I became a Muslim. I know the man who recruited me, and I knew the professors that I was working with, nobody else. All I know is they were paying for everything, and they had already set up my job in the American Embassy for when I graduated with international law. So maybe like 7 years down the line.
What's the organization's biggest goal in teaching their members the Quran and Hadith to the point where they can manipulate the Quran and Hadith and change the minds of the Islamic community?
What they wanted was the power and the control. They also recognized that, because I did question, why are we targeting feminism and women? And their answer is, if you destroy a man, you destroy a man. If you destroy a woman, you destroy the generations that come after her. So they become less practicing of Islam. They become weaker and more focused on the dunya and not on the akhirah. These people can be easily manipulated and moved and done whatever they want to do with them. They don't care if these people go to Jannah or Jahannam. What they care about is we can control them, we can manipulate them, we can make this society do what we want them to do. You know, there's an old saying that the strongest way to control people is sex, drugs, and music. And by music, it means like all of media. So utilizing these things,